Today is the once-a-year count of all the people living on the streets of Denver and in shelters. This is part of a nationwide effort that helps divvy up resources to address homelessness. Denver's count will be skewed this year for a few reasons. The extreme cold sends more people indoors. And our Steve Steger learned the hundreds of migrants in Denver shelters will be counted.
We saw a lot of still in the night, through the night.
Quiet.
The cold really does, I think, impact people's decision-making in unsheltered homelessness about when and if to come inside.
Chris Connor with Denver's Department of Housing Stability says the streets weren't all that busy when he and his shift partner went out this morning.
We still saw tent structures, still saw individuals here and there, but there's a lot of what we saw was abandoned, carts and belongings in a street corner that normally would have had somebody there in the morning hours.
Not surprising, because temperatures like we saw last night tend to drive people who would usually stay outside indoors into a shelter or somewhere else.
They may, pool their resources together and get a hotel room, or this might be the one time that they reach out to that friend to see if they can just stay, on their couch overnight.
Kathy Alderman is with the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless. She says a skewed number on this point in time count could impact the resources service providers get to help.
It is the tool that HUD relies on when assessing whether a continuum of care or the coordinating entity for homelessness services in a given area is doing enough to address homelessness.
It is reported to HUD, which is then put in a report that goes to Congress to help determine funding.
Jamie Reif leads the Metro Denver Homeless Initiative, which runs the count and gets that funding to disperse to service providers across the region.
Maybe on a day like today, there's between 6,500 and 7,000 people experiencing homelessness. That's what we had last year with 6,800. But what we see over a year is that there's closer to 28,000.
She'll be the first to tell you this data about one night will never tell you the whole story about what the community needs.
It is a one-night snapshot and doesn't fully capture really the resources that we need, which tend to be 5 to 6 more times than what we're actually showing to Congress is our need.
Reif told me that there are certainly efforts to get better real-time data about homelessness, including HUD's Homeless Management Information System, which is a database on individuals experiencing homelessness, where service providers then can share in-depth details about each case and what each person needs. She says, as a nation, we're not quite there yet when it comes to using that in-depth data, so they've got to rely on this. It's also a chance, really, the survey is a great chance to get out on the street and talk to folks who are going through this. You get a lot more stories, you get a lot more experiences that way. That way you can better your response down the road.
And of course, starting in early December, Colorado's shelter population, Denver metro shelter population, just went up like that with all the migrants coming to.
Absolutely going to be part of the count, because this count looks at anyone who is inside a shelter. They're going to look at emergency shelters. That will probably be in the report, that these are emergency shelters and that these are folks who are coming to this country as part, or coming to Denver as part of the migrant refugee program in Denver, as with other cities across the country. But it's definitely going to be part of the calculation for resources.
Hopefully they look at the fine print, because this is an unusual situation.
Yes,
here
it
this
is.
year.
Yeah, because you don't want your number to go up necessarily, because you want to make sure you get the funding.
All right, Steve, thank you.